Okay, so I'm back with another video. Straight as always. Let's open the window here. Oh, good lord. Thought I'd just do a rambling video. Got a bit of time to myself. Had a few things I wanted to talk about. It's a topic I've wanted to talk about for a while. One that I'm very interested in, which is really about how you're all basically how the political parties of today are tricking you. And I'm going to aim this primarily at an American audience. As I stated in my last video, American politics is really my interest because it's more interesting, really. Largely because British politics is now currently being dominated by the Democratic Socialists, even though Conservatives have more power. A lot of the favour of the people lies with Labour now after what was a very interesting election in which Theresa May lost her majority and had to join with a theocratic creationist party. And so I'm going to go with American politics. And this was after seeing a video by Stefan Molyneux, who I think is a very, I'd at the very least say he's an interesting thinker. I think he is introspective and he does what he can, and he does think through his opinions. I just think he sometimes arrives at the wrong conclusions, and the one mistake he's come to now is believing that Donald Trump has betrayed the idea of the wall for the military. Because I think the idea of the wall, personally, I think is not a very good idea simply because whilst they're coming across the border, there's a big issue of drug dealers coming across the border. At the end of the day, they could just as easily smuggle it by plane, and this is what they did. And this is what they've done for a long time. I've researched into it. It would actually stop the net outflow of immigrants from the US. They're actually more leaving than going in, which is a less known fact. And a big thing is that there are actually a lot of immigrants who go to the US, and because there's a net out, not only does it then become not only would any measure that stops flow either way actually mean that the immigration outwards slows down, but it also means that it'd be more expensive to get over the border because it would require you to catch the plane, which would require a passport. And if you can't get a passport because you're not a legal resident, that can mean that you end up having to spend American tax dollars on processing illegal immigrants at the airport, and they can just leave over the border. If you are questioning what I'm saying about the fact that immigrants are leaving, since Donald Trump sort of rose under Obama, it's so important to note also that Obama deported more people than Trump has. He did it at a higher rate. So if you want less immigrants in the country, Obama was doing a better job. So really, not only does the wall not work for the purpose of lowering immigration, it also cost a lot more money than Donald Trump was saying. All the prototypes they looked up, because not only do you have to build the wall, you also have to maintain it. You have to buy the land for it because that's other people's land. You also have to man the wall because literally people could climb over it. I mean, even if you put barbed wire and everything, people could climb over it. So fundamentally, the wall was a bad idea. But the big point of Stefan Molyneux's video was that he'd put a massive increase to military you didn't need, and basically paid off to the military-industrial complex. Defense contractors have a massive influence both the Democratic and the Republican Party. They pay a lot of campaign contributions, and basically what they do is They will build drones. The drones will be used, which then increases tensions, which means that there's more war, and they know that all of this is counteractive to creating peace. It's a cyclical system. But I think there's something Stefan Molyneux and a lot of right-wing libertarians actually understand as well, the key differences between conservatives and right-wing libertarians, which is non-interventionism. Just don't be fucking involved in the Middle East because it's only being counterproductive. Um, it really gives something more than just an ideological reason for people to go to America and to Europe and to commit terrorist attacks. I mean, that's just, and it's partly religion as well. I'm no fan of religion. I think Islam is a horrible religion, just as much as I think Christianity and every other religion, basically except Buddhism at its base level, and Taoism, even though Taoism is also questionable at times, is terrible. I think the military-industrial complex and giving more money to defense contractors is actually very harmful. Is actually very harmful to the end goal of stopping terrorism. And of course, if you think that immigrants are the ones that are going to cause terrorism, which is also not the case, it's being mainly done by right-wing nationalists. And if you're worried about terrorism, Trump actually defunded the FBI's research into right-wing terrorist attacks. Sorry, just got to do something before I switched on the camera. So I think there's something a lot of right-wing libertarians understand, and I think it just takes the leap of logic to realise that actually it's counterproductive to stopping terrorism, both building the wall and going to war in the Middle East, and actually withdrawing from the Middle East, stopping the drone strikes, defunding the military-industrial complex, stop giving American tax dollars within America to overseas warlords and warmongers. I think this is something we can all agree on. Now, big problem is that Stefan Molyneux and a lot of his fans were like, oh, well, Trump's betrayed us. He's, and here's the fucking problem. Here's the big problem that left and right-wing people in America are not realising. All the Democrats and Republicans are doing this, and all they will do is throw you a bone on social issues. That's all they're fucking doing. You'll see, if you watch a speech, and this is something that people have been sick of in politics for years, they barely fucking talk about policy. This is why Jeremy Corbyn has got so popular in the UK. It's why Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in America, because they'll be like, we need to fix this, we need to fix this, we need to fix this. Policies, things that actually mean something. Republicans and Democrats just throw you bones on social issues. I'll give you an example. Cory Booker. He will go to all the feminist. Actually, let's do it one better. Let's do it one better. Republicans say that they want to reduce gun crime. So, and in black communities, and I'm just going to have to process and sort of streamline this thought a bit. So they will, and when left-wing people go, well, it's a poor lack of training from the police brutality, affecting black communities, the Democrats will throw them a bone and say, yeah, it is. Which I think there is actually some debate there. I think it's actually about police training in general and the fact that the black community no longer trusts the police. And so the police need to be better trained to deal with people who don't trust them. They need to be focused on de-escalation. But I think that's an issue, which would take a very long time to cover. So I'm not going to go into that. But they want to reduce gun crime and reduce black poverty in America, because there is a wealth disparity. This is not disputable. And I think there's something that right-wing libertarians agree on. What they will tend to say is that the culture surrounding the black community is incredibly harmful. Now, I think it's actually a mix. I think that the culture, a lot of a lot of the what I'd call the ghetto community, which is just the community that comes out of being born into a low economic situation. I grew up in I when I was younger, I lived for a little bit in a poor white community, and I where I live, the job center I go to is in the much poorer area I used to live in, and I have actually seen I've actually seen the people who I grew up with, and when you're in a poor economic situation, you just end up in a poor economic situation, right? And the big issue is that Republicans will just go, oh, these leftists just want to give handouts to the black community and all of this. Then they'll actually give no policy changes. They'll just go, Democrats suck. I mean, it's not actual policy, right? So whenever a politician just talks about their ideology for days on end, but rarely talks about policy, it just sounds like complete bullshit. And this is why a lot of people trusted Donald Trump. So this is what makes Donald Trump very different, is that not only did he focus on deflection, I mean, he outright lied. He multiple times has gone back on things he said, and he's actively done things in a way where it looks like he's done what he said, but actually hasn't. Let's say right, this is the best example. This is one that I actually mentioned in a YouTube comment I left from Stefan Molyneux' video, which is TPP. TPP basically just outsourced a ton of jobs, really only helped the really rich at the massive expense of the American worker. Jobs vanished, and this was done by the Democrats. So if the Republicans are really smart economists who are for the people, they would have reversed TPP and done a lot of work to improve. Just done a lot of work to improve all of that kind of basically just to do better than the Democrats did if they're being smart economists. Now, they definitely helped the big American businesses, but the things that really affected the workers and took the jobs and outsourced the jobs, actually Donald Trump actually put those into the renegotiation of NAFTA, which is really disgusting and really underhanded, but it shows you one thing about Donald Trump, is that he actively lied. He lied about the wall, and he lied about, because he said Mexico was going to pay, he said Americans wouldn't even pay for the wall. The price of the wall is going to be astronomically high. Now, I think a lot of people don't trust the left-wing economists on this, but neutral ones too have gone like, this is going to be ridiculously expensive. And you literally could, for that price, you could do a lot of things. But what Donald Trump's decided to do is give, was it a $200 billion increase to the military? Now, I'd like to point out here that is ridiculous. I mean, it's completely unnecessary, seeing as America really shouldn't be in this place in the first place, which again is something that me and the viewer here probably agree with. So Donald Trump's been lying from the start. And the big leap that's not being made is all of the politicians lie about this, because every policy position they mention is really just a misdirection and a deception. And the biggest lie that they tell you is about economics. Now, the Democrats do this and the Republicans do this. And it's the argument that the way to make better economic situation is to have less taxes, because and it was a trick created by Reagan, and it's one that's that I think can be true in certain circumstances, but for the most part is not true in the way the Republicans and the Democrats use it. So of course, if you're being taxed less, you have more money. The thing is that what a good economy does is a good government does is it uses its taxes to create a more stable society. I mean, that's what taxes are all about, right? Police, at the very base level, yeah, police, fire brigades, a military, and an infrastructure. That's the minimum. Um, but welfare and stuff. I mean, for example, it's been proven that having food stamps helps employment, and it helps people stay and work, because it because what happens is that someone who's working one job and has food stamps doesn't need to work the second job. The second job can mean they can't work either job. They end up becoming homeless. The kids end up um, ha- basically have to be raised by the government, which costs a ton of money. Um, and it just creates a wide range of economic issues not having any kind of food, very fundamentally food welfare, and unemployment benefit, that kind of thing. I mean, I think there's an argument to be said that handouts, but at the end of the day, it saves you money because you actually have to pay less in taxes, and it also means that the amount of taxes you have to pay is more stable, and it also massively reduces the chances of an economic recession. Economic recessions happen when the economy is unstable, and it's not like one big thing and slap bang it's the economic depression. That's not really how it works. There's lots of little things. Unemployment just gets too high, and the government is having to spend things on that it shouldn't, and all of that kind of thing. And food stamps and welfare actually create a more stable economic system. I mean, and a lot of people, like a lot of right-wing libertarians, like, well, look at, Europe is crumbling, and they're like all welfare states. Well, actually, in the Nordic countries, which are the social democratic countries, they have a very stable economy, and they have the highest happiness per capita, the highest GDP per capita. Because what you want is economic stability. That's what creates a good economy, because when an economy is stable, people feel safer to invest. Small businesses feel safer to invest, because if it doesn't, because it's less likely that the business is going to suddenly collapse, basically, because of an economic recession. It's a very and it doesn't feel very intuitive, but that's the long and short of it. And what the Republicans and the Democrats do. See, another thing they do is they pretend they're really different. Well, actually, the Republicans are just better at bullshitting you, because they basically do all the same shit. They do all the same shit as the Democrats, except on social issues like abortion. So in the end, Democrats and Republicans, you're really voting on social issues. Stuff like gay marriage, stuff like abortion. I mean, in my opinion, those are of course important. But if they legalized, if I could choose to have a strong economy, which means that people basically aren't living in shit, then to be honest, I don't mind if late-term abortions are made illegal. Of course, if it's without exceptions for incest and rape, then I'm not okay with that. But my point is that I think they're throwing you bones on social issues. Let's take another one, the minimum wage. Now, there's a big thing about the $15 minimum wage, something especially being pushed by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who really are the two big, more left-wing powerhouses. And I think it's important to point out Democrats are actually on the right wing of politics. Calling Democrats leftists is wrong. Bernie and Elizabeth Warren are leftists. And again, you think that forcing employers to pay more money is a bad thing. And for a time I was like, I don't get it. But actually it makes quite a simple sense once you actually look at it. You got more money. Of course, the companies had to pay more money. But at the same time, they've got more people coming into their shops and buying products, right? Because once you have that extra money, you can buy more expensive products. you can buy more products, more luxury consumer goods. Consumer goods are what keep a stable economy. The fall of communist Tsarist Russia was largely due because they had no tertiary or secondary economies. They only had primary goods such as food and housing, which are the essentials, but it also meant that their economy had no variety and was, as a result, very never flourished. So when people have more money, not only that, but people who would rather eat spaghetti 2 days in a row, now that they've got a $15 minimum wage, they're buying different foods every day. They're having 3 meals a day. They're buying themselves nice clothes, which also means that with a $15 minimum wage, hygiene and mental health actually get way better. I mean, I think that's just a given, but that's just a side note. Fundamentally, with more money to spend, it means that consumer goods, primary goods, and secondary goods, like cars, you can buy yourself a better car, which means you can, which also means that if you drive to work, you're less likely to have it break down, that kind of thing. You can buy bigger cars for all of your family. You can buy a better education. With better education come better jobs. And if you've got a better educated country, then companies will actually move jobs over to where you are. So it's all very so $15 minimum wage. It's actually been proven hiking it is actually what creates the massive economic growth by just putting it way up and basically just smacking the big companies in the face. The big companies do actually struggle with this for a little bit to meet demands, and stocks do drop for a bit. But at the end of the day, they actually go up because now they will have to open up more. They have to open up more stores and employ more people, creates more jobs, and those jobs are more profitable. Now, I think another big issue that people have is going, well, I make like $12 a week now, and these people make $10. With this, we'll both go to $15. Well, obviously, you just go, I'm working a higher ranking job, so you negotiate for a better wage. I mean, that's pretty simple, right? So it's been proven that economic wage hikes are good for every level of the economy, for the unemployed, for the employed, for the top, for business owners, small and big. It's good. It does create a bit of a shock period, but that shock period only affects the big company owners. In fact, small company owners will actually find that more people are willing to spend money on small businesses and small investments, and the slightly more premium goods that small businesses tend to provide, right? Like an independent butcher is going to serve better meat, higher quality meat than the local Walmart, right? So I think that's just a pretty simple. It's pretty simple, and I think it's just something that you've been lied to by Democrats and Republicans, and they sort of just say it as fact. And this is something that I think right-wing libertarians just, the moment they understand that social hybrid economics, social capitalist economics is the way to go, and this is what has meant that that the Nordic countries are so stable, because the actual places that have issues in Europe, which is Greece and Spain, I think, are the main two that are having serious economic problems. They're the least social of Europe's economies, and they're the ones having issues. So Stefan Molyneux' video, I think he was spot on in saying Trump's betrayed us, and I'm glad that he finally realised that it's a betrayal and not just a misstep, because that's what a lot of people like to do with their leaders. When their leaders do something fucking stupid, they're like, oh, it's just a misstep. Well, actually, no, they have a whole board of advisors. They have people checking everything they do. Everything a politician in power does has been checked by about 5 people after them and gone, this will be the ramifications. And they fucking know what the ramifications are. But in America, they're not serving you. And it's becoming a problem in the UK too, with the Conservatives and the DUP, who are the crazy people. But of course, it's aimed at Americans, so I'm not going to go too much into that. Now, I think a big issue that comes after all of this is that, okay. So even if you accept the $15 minimum wage, you accept that welfare creates a more stable economy, you go, well, I want to spend my money how I choose. And I think that is really the biggest point of contention, right? Because you want to be able to spend your money how you want. You don't want to be dealing with some bullshit. I think that's a very reasonable complaint to make. But I'm going to deconstruct each aspect of that. I think so. First, I'm going to go to healthcare because I think healthcare is a very special exception in the American system because you do not have a single payer system like much of the rest of the developed world does. And Republicans will just go, well, you want to raise taxes whenever someone brings it up. You want to raise taxes. Medicare for all, you want to raise taxes. And yes, it does involve a raising of taxes, but it also means that you don't have to spend any money on health insurance or the premiums that come after that. I mean, you not only, and I think if you have healthcare insurance at all, or you go to the hospital at all, unless you are an immortal super being, you will want a single payer. A single payer system will save you money. At the end of the day, yes, you can't choose to not have healthcare and not go to the hospital. But it also means that you get better healthcare because it also means that it's no longer for profit. You will never be denied your healthcare. It's cheaper and it saves the government a shitload of money that they could spend on far more useful places like education and infrastructure. I think that's pretty basic, right? So, like I said, healthcare is a special exception, but this is when you get into stuff like, well, I don't want to pay for other people's food stamps, right? I don't want to be paying for these handouts. Here's the thing, is if you go with the socialist capitalist economic system, you will have more money. You watching this video will have more money. It's just a fact. Because the stable economy that allows for more investment and a higher success rate for investment means that the economy is healthier and it flourishes. So all the money that you would lose to the taxes, you get back in economic growth. And this isn't some sort of mumbo jumbo that I'm talking about. You just need to look to the Nordic countries. Now, you could talk about immigration all you like and their policy.